What's going on, YouTube? We got another Kinemon versus Zoro locals gameplay. Kinemon's going first. I'm going to turn one with Bonnie, just so I could activate it next turn if I want to. But I also have a Raizo in hand, so I'm just setting up my value plays. Zoro's playing out Dadan for 2 Dawn and found a 1-drop Otama. It's going to pass turn, 3 Dawn on Kinemon. I drew into a Yamato, so I think that's the better play. So I could Yamato, rest his Dadan, and clear it with leader. So 3 for Yamato, attack it with the leader, 5,000. He lets it go. It's too early to be protecting cards. Zoro, he just drew into another Nami. And he just outright jet pistols my Yamato. Not sure if that was the right play, but he chooses to do that, and then leader attack into my leader. I take the first life. 5 into Zoro. He counters out with Nami, which is also questionable just because that Nami can get him another card and be an attacker. And with my 5 Dawn, I just summon out Okiku and Raizo. So now he's at 6 Dawn. And the reason, I guess, he chucked out 1 Nami was because he had more Namis in hand. So he plays a Nami. He gets a Robin, seeing that I'm playing a lot of small cards. And he Otama and Vistas my Okiku. 6,000 to leader. Just deciding whether or not I should counter out of it. I'm already at 4 life. I probably should, but I don't have many 2K counters in hand. So that's 1 Ezo that I just chucked out. 7 Dawn turn. I can't Odin anymore because I have too many cards on board. One Dawn for Bonnie. I see a Law, I see a Apu. 2 Laws and an Apu. My hand is a Yamato, Odin, a Toki. I pick up the blocker. Six Dawn left. 4 to summon Yamato. And I'm deciding whether or not to rest the Vista. I choose to rest the Nami just because it's a 1-drop. But in hindsight, if you rest the Vista, it's harder for him to attack because the Nami is only 2K, whereas the Vista is 3,000. So next time, I think the better play would be to rest and KO the Vista. And I use the rest of my Dawn to play out a Momo, but it whiffs and I get nothing from it. Now that he has still 2 characters on board, he could clear out both of my searchers. His leader is able to clear my Raizo too, so my board's probably going to be thin after the fact. He chooses to attack into my Raizo with his Vista, and I'm just going to 1K counter out of that. And there we see a Gordon and Vista to KO another one of my Yamatos. So my board still is thin. 6K leader into Raizo, and then he plays out a Robin. So his board is still wide. I'm just going to use the Bonnie to swing into his Otama and leader to kill the other Vista. Just need to thin out his board a little bit. And 7 Dawn, going to play out my Odin. 2 Dawn up. I don't have a Punk Gibson in hand, but I do have the True Drop Killer Blocker that I potentially could have just played, but I chose not to. And here he Otama jet pistols my Odin, and at the very least that nets me a Okiku from my deck. His board is pretty wide, so he's probably going to start going face. I have like no cards left in hand to protect. So that Bonnie's gone. The Robin's going to go 5,000 a leader. I'm going to take it. 6,000 a leader. He has 3 down up, so I'm a little suspicious. Probably another Zoro, so I was going to take the life, and then just seeing that 3 that he used right now to play a Zoro, I had to counter out of at least one of those. So his board is really wide. I'm at 2 life, he's at 4 life. I have 2 swings. He only has 1 card in hand, so if he has a counter, that makes things a little rougher, but I could draw that out at least. He lets the Zoro die, so it's telling me it's not a counter. 5k Okiku into the Robin, that also goes. I'm going to Momo, hopefully get a card. I still do have the blocker law in hand, so I could recycle that Momo. I get a Raizo, so that's going to be played out. Five Don for the blocker law. Bounce the Momo to play a Raizo. And I could play out my killer blocker. So now I have 2 blockers on board. I feel a little better just because he has only 2 cards now and 3 characters on board, but the Otama is going to be tough to attack with. If I can save the Okiku or the Raizo, I'll have enough characters to clear his board. 3 on Vista, which is 7k, into the Okiku. I'm going to killer blocker that just to draw a card. Just so now he'd have to invest more Don into the rest of his characters if he does want to swing and make sure Okiku is KO'd. He puts 3 onto Nami, so that's 6,000. Maybe he should have put 1 more for 7,000, but instead he chooses to go 6,000 twice. And I do have the 2Ks for them, and he did that because he had another Zoro in hand. So I counter out and block with Law. So he has a bunch of rested characters on board. I'm going to do my best to try to clear that out. Every character Zoro has on board is a threat to my life, especially now that my health total is only 2 cards. Going to reuse that Momo from last turn, get another Raizo. 6,000 to the Zoro, rest Otama. He's not countering out of it, so his hand must not be a counter. He's going to slowly clear his board. I'm deciding whether or not to attack with the Law. I shouldn't, just because if he draws into a jet pistol, it's just easy removal, and there's no need to rush it. I used the rest of my Don to play out 7-drop blocker Kid. We both have 2 cards, but I do have the whole board. So it's almost time for me to start pushing for game. Doesn't look like he has much options. He stacks everything onto Otama, leaving 2 for leader. And that's 9,000 to leader. I have to block that, and he's going to 7,000 leader. And I also counter out of that with 1,000 and the blocker. So now that I have searchers on board, I'm just going to abuse that and just keep getting more card advantage. And it looks like I just keep drawing into Raizos. So now he has no board at all. I can start poking his life. I do play another Bonnie. And Bonnie's going to be really, really critical in the late game against Zoro, because I need to keep seeing those chump blockers. I put 2 Don onto Okiku and then swing with leader for 5,000, just because if he does jet pistol, Okiku's out of range. And then I swing with the rest of my cards. So I swing him 5,000 with leader, 7,000 with Okiku, and 8,000 with Kid. So I just gave him 3 cards in hand in that one turn. And now that he has a lot of gas again with a full hand, he's just gonna make a nice wide board. So he Namis into a jet pistol, the Dons into a Makino, another Dadan. So he's 5 5 Dawn used already. 6 Dawn used. Now he just plays out a Gordon to minus 3k to my blocker and Jet Pistol for the rest of his Dawn. And then 5,000 into my Okiku, which I have to keep alive if I do want to go for game next turn. I counter out with 1,000. So he now has 3 characters on board. With his leader, that's 4 swings, so it is kind of dangerous. Here I do kind of a weird play. I put 3 Dawn onto Raizo because I don't want it Jet Pistoled. He has 3 cards in hand. I attack 5,000 with Okiku, he 1k counters out of it. And then I 7,000 with Raizo. He counters out with 2 cards, so he has 1 card left in hand. And right now I have 7 Dawn left. I'm thinking I could still play out the 7-drop Kid. But I use 1 Dawn to do the Bonnie because I do want to find blockers, and I luckily find 2. Also see the option of Punk Gibson, but a blocker is probably better. Or maybe not, because the Punk Gibson will defend 1 and then rest another. So technically he'll only have 3 swings and not 4. And I poke with leader and he drops his last card from hand. And I play out the blocker I just searched. Yeah, if I used Bonnie right in the beginning of the turn and didn't see a blocker, I probably should have went for game. He draws into a Whitebeard and plays it right away. He's going to clean up my board a little bit. I'm just going to block everything and counter out of it. Just because I need the Raizo and Okiku on board for me to even consider game. Now he has no cards in hand, 1 life. I'm realizing now that I had a Punk Gibson in hand and 3 Dawn open that I didn't use last turn. But that's just the thing about being in control and then forgetting what you could have done. But I have enough Dawn to attack for game, and that's it.